Today, we're going to learn how to record vocals in Ableton. If you are a complete beginner, that is completely okay. We are going to cover all of the basics. Now, I have a recording studio here in Seattle, Washington. All my engineers are Ableton people. We only use Ableton. It's Ableton or die. Ableton is very flexible. It has its pros and cons, but I love it, and I think you're going to love it too. It can be a little bit intimidating when you're looking at it for the first time, but just stick with me here, and I would encourage you not to skip ahead in the video to the recording part. There's some setup and there's some fundamental stuff here at the beginning that's really important. It's going to set you up for success later when you're editing, when you're mixing. There are things that must be set up in the beginning. So please just follow along with me. If you already know, you can skip, but stick it out with me for those first like 7-8 minutes, and I promise you it's going to be worth it, and I cannot wait for you to start making your songs. All right, let's get it. One of the most helpful things you can do is toggle on this little info button if it's not already on. This is really nice because, so anywhere you move your mouse in the interface, there's going to be a description of what that thing is down here in the bottom left. And that's going to be your best friend when you're just beginning to learn the software. Now, before we do anything, we're just going to do a quick save as, because you got an untitled project here. So we're going to just do a quick save as. We're going to save our file as anything you want, and make sure you put it in a folder that is going to make sense. We'll just call this how to record vocals. So we're going to assume for the sake of this video that you've got an instrumental, and we're going to drag our audio, our beat, into a new audio track. Now there are two types of tracks. Now these are the tracks in Ableton, right? There's MIDI tracks and audio tracks. MIDI is this keyboard mode where you can program notes in. We're not going to worry about those today. In fact, we're just going to delete these MIDI tracks out of the project because we're not worried about producing or doing MIDI programming. We're just focusing on recording today. So we have our beat on channel 1, and there are two ways to adjust the volume of the beat. Now I'm going to play this back really quickly here. You can both change the track volume here. So if I drag that down, you're going to hear it get quieter. Drag it up, it's going to get louder. But for this case, we're going to go down here, and you can actually change, instead of, this changes the volume of the sound coming out of this channel here. We can change the volume of the actual clip. If we click on the beat here, we're going to drag this down, or you can type it in. So I'm going to type in -6, and that's going to give us 6 decibels of headroom. So you can see the wave got smaller, and this would be the same in terms of what we're hearing as moving the channel down -6. I like to do this on the clip though, because it's going to just give us a little bit more flexibility down the line. Now the next step, after we have the beat in here, you might notice, if you're using an MP3, that there's a tiny bit of blank space at the beginning of the file. Now waves a lot of times don't have that, but if it's an MP3 that you're using, there might be a little bit of blank space here. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to zoom in. So you zoom in by moving your cursor up here and dragging, and we're going to just cut that off. So we're going to select this portion of it and click delete. Now there's no air at the beginning of the beat anymore, and we're going to slide that over to the very beginning. The reason why we do that is because we want to set the project tempo to match the tempo of the beat. Now you can see right now that there are these grid lines in Ableton, right? And so if I'm dragging my cursor over there, you can see there's these little delineations, rectangular delineations. If you want to change the size of the delineation that you're viewing, you can do that by right-clicking anywhere in the timeline and changing that right here, 1 bar, 2 bar. I mentioned that now because what's really important before you start recording is that we set the project tempo, which means the tempo that Ableton, the software, is set at, to match the tempo of the beat. And the project tempo is measured in beats per minute. It's literally the number of counts in every minute of the song. So this beat, if you were to count how many snaps occur in an entire minute of the beat, that is the number of beats per minute, the BPM of the song. So what we need to do is we need to find out what the BPM of the beat is, and then we need to set the tempo of Ableton to match that. And when we do that, the grid these rectangles here, these lines will line up with the drum hits that we can see on the beat. So you can use what's called a BPM finder. There's websites online. If you upload the beat, it will tell you. And that might be the fastest way for you. Now, if you want to go a little bit more advanced, what we can do is we can take a look at this beat and listen to it. Hear that, and then I'm going to tap this with about the same tempo of the beat. There's a little button here that says tap. When you tap this, it will see that number to the right of the tap changing. It's changing this to match the tempo that you're tapping. So I tapped it about the speed of which the beat was playing. It's not exact, and I'm going to play it back here. You can tell I'm just a little bit slow, and so I'm going to adjust the BPM up just a little bit, and you'll see that the beat slides when I adjust the BPM up. And when I adjust it to 78, look at that. Now all of the transients line up right with the grid. And that's what we want. So now when I play this back, the metronome, and you turn the metronome, that clicking sound, on and off by clicking this button right here. Now our metronome is lined up perfectly with the beat. Now this is really important because say you want to edit the beat, say you want to move one part of the beat into another part of the beat. When it's on the grid now, if you right click anywhere on the timeline and you select snap to grid, that's going to make these rectangles snap with your selection. And now you can go choose say like a 4-bar block, and we could go and copy this. We copy that by, well, you could select it and then hit Command C or Control C. And then you could put this part of the beat somewhere else. And when it's all on the grid, it's going to be a seamless transition. There will be no skips. There will be no weird little bits of air because everything is snapped to the grid because we have set the project tempo to the tempo of the beat. And so this is really handy for editing, and it's important. This is all very important stuff to set up before you start recording. Now you can just drag your WAV file in here and start recording, but it's going to cause issues for you down the line if you do not set the tempo up correctly. Okay, so let's talk about recording. Now that we've got our beat in here, we've trimmed the air out, we've reduced the clip gain volume by -6, we've set the project tempo to match the BPM of the beat. Now we can start thinking about recording our vocals. So the same way that this is a stereo track, you can see there are two waveforms in this file, right? There's this one and this one. This is what's coming out of the left speaker, and this is what's coming out of the right speaker. And they're slightly different. You can see if I zoom in, they're similar, but they're not the same. And that's what gives you that width in the sound when you're listening. When we record vocals, the vocal is going into one microphone and so there will only be one line when we record the vocals. Now, before we record, you might have to go into your settings and choose your audio input device. Now, if you have a Scarlett, if you have an audio, if a Blue Yeti, if you have an Apollo Twin, Volt, any audio interface, it's going to show up here under the audio input device. And you're going to want to choose whichever audio, whatever selection here, whatever your mic is plugged into, you're going to want to choose that. So I'm choosing my Apollo Twin because that's what my mic is plugged into. And now you're going to have to select the correct input here. Now see there's a 1 and a 2 right here. For vocals, we are just going to choose the channel that the mic is plugged into. And for me, that's channel number 2 on my Apollo. So that is the channel that my mic is plugged into on the interface. It's coincidentally also channel 2 in the project. That's not related. So to record now, there's 2 things you have to do to record. You have to arm the track for recording. In this little, this is your track. This is your track info here, your volume for the track, your panning for the track, left or right. We'll keep those both at 0 for now. You arm the track for recording by clicking this red button here. Now that means that this track is ready to record. Now, if we turn on, this is what's called the monitoring section. For now, we're just going to leave this off. If you want to hear your own voice in the headphone, you can turn this on. You might get a little bit of delay though now, or a little bit of latency, a difference between what you say and what you hear. So we're just going to keep that off for now, just keep things really simple. To actually start recording, I'm going to click this button up here. Now this button is the big record button. This means you're going to start recording as soon as we click this. So you can see now, as I'm speaking, my voice is being recorded into channel 2. That's what we're doing. And we have a decent level here. Now, if I were to turn up the gain on my interface, it would get louder and it would start to clip. We don't want that. It sounds bad, right? We want to make sure that we turn down the gain on our interface so that we're getting a healthy level of signal, but it's not clipping. We don't want this line going above 0. That's going to cause distortion in your recording. And so that's why it's important to turn the beat down, because if we keep the beat all the way loud, to get the vocal to be heard over the beat, we're going to have to turn our interface up so loud that we're going to clip. So that's why we turn the beat down in the beginning. It's so that we get more headroom so we can record at a moderate volume without clipping. As I'm speaking, my voice is... Now, if we want to turn the vocal up, the easiest way to do that is on the fader here. Let's talk about workflow for recording now, though. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to delete it. Turn this back to 0. And for recording vocals, what I find really helpful is to group the vocals. So in Ableton, you can set up a group of channels, and you'll see what happens here when I do that. I'm going to make a new track. So you go File, Create, Insert Audio Track. Now we've got Audio Track 2, Audio Track 3. I'm going to change the input here to 2 so that both of them are armed for channel 2, which is the mic I'm recording into. I'm going to select both of these tracks now. You select 2 tracks at a time by clicking one and then holding Shift, clicking the other. Now we're going to go Command or Control if you're on Windows, Command G. Now look what that does. That gives us a group. Now this group, basically what that does is all the audio in this channel and all the audio in this channel flow into this channel. This is like another track. You can't put audio in this like lane up here. This just controls these two, so you have one fader now that affects both of these channels. And that's what a group is. And this is really helpful for recording. So I'm going to show an example here for a second. Say you're recording your vocal and it's all going swimmingly, and then you forget what you're going to say, or you mess up and you make a little flub. We're going to cut that out. And now I want to continue recording after that. So now I'm going to go and arm this track. And then you forget what you're going to say, or you mess up, and now we can continue recording seamlessly. And if you're recording yourself, the group really helps with this, right? Because now we can record, we can start the recording back here, and we don't have to manage like punching at a very specific instance. We can just trim this back and we can record seamlessly into the next punch, and we can control these 2 lanes of audio as if they were one in the group, or you mess up. And now we can continue recording seamlessly. Now you might find that continue recording when you're playing it back, like, oh, the vocal does not sound loud enough. And or you might find that there are volume fluctuations, and that's completely normal. That's part of recording. Before anything's mixed, there's going to be differences in the levels, and we're going to talk about mixing in a later video. Right now we're just going to talk about getting these vocals recorded. That is the gist of it, though, and so you can see how this workflow kind of works out. Now I want to talk about take lanes really quickly. So as you continue recording, really helps with this, right? Say that you record a bar or a phrase and it's not quite right, and you want to record it again. You can record right over. The group really helps with this, right? So say you want to record a phrase or a bar, and that wasn't quite right either. So it helps with this, right? Say you want to record a phrase or a bar. So now I've recorded that phrase 3 times. And now if I want to choose the very best one. And when you record over something in Ableton, as long as you're not moving these around and not moving them from one track to the other or anything like that, if you right click channel 3 here where we just recorded those 3 takes and we click show take lanes, you're going to see every recording that we've done as a little subgroup underneath this. So we've got the big group, which has our multiple tracks in it, and then each track has the take lanes within it. The take lanes are a history of all the recordings. So now we can go in here, and if we unsnap from the grid, right? Remember how we snap to the grid with being at one bar. This is going to be helpful to unsnap now. And when we are looking at these, we're going to turn our pencil mode on. So if we go up here to the right, upper right hand corner and click this pencil, we can select. And as I select this bit of audio, it will populate into the main channel up there. So as I let go of that, look at that. So now we can hear this. Say you want to record on our interface, you know, so we can place together, excuse me, that's not the right recording, but or say you want to record a phrase or a bar. Now, maybe we want this one instead. Say you want to record a phrase, a bar, or a phrase, you know, so you can start piecing together. Say that you can start piecing together from your recording. Now, this is all mumbly jumbly because I wasn't very consistent with my takes, but you could see if you recorded the same bar over and over again, you could be able to choose one word at a time and splice them together to choose your favorite. So you don't have to do it. Maybe you record a whole verse up here and you record it 3 times, and you like the first half of the first verse and the second half of the second verse, and you can do that by choosing the take lanes down here, and then you can kind of build your perfect take with the take lanes. That's really helpful. You know, several years ago they did not have this feature, and you kind of had to jerry rig your own take lanes by managing multiple tracks within the same group. Say we've recorded this once now, and say this is our chorus. Now we want to say the chorus comes again in another 8 bars. Now what we can do is if we, you know, if we snap to grid, so we right click snap to grid, and that's the hotkey for that is Command 4. So you can snap the grid on and off by hitting Command 4, which is very helpful. Another helpful hotkey is if I unsnap the grid and want to select just a piece of this, and I want to cut this audio somewhere in the middle, you hit Command E, and that will cut it. But just another little bonus here. Let's go back to what I was talking about. So let's snap to the grid, and then say I want to copy this whole thing. I can copy this exactly to the next chorus by, as long as I'm on the grid here, Command C, and then over here, Command V, and Command V. And now this is going to go exactly where, relative to the beat, it's going to stay exactly on the grid from where I recorded it. Yeah, have fun. I'm sure that I have overlooked something very important here. So please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I will be happy to answer anything. I've been working in Ableton now since probably 2010, and it is just, I mean, it has its pros and cons for sure, but it's an absolute joy to explore and to continue working with. And it's so flexible, just really something special. So have fun. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm excited to hear what y'all are working on.